Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello everybody. We have a new lesson today. It is the past perfect simple, and we are going to see also the past perfect progressive or continuous. So welcome to a new lesson, and let's start learning again. The outline of our lesson for today is the following. We are going to see the revision of the simple past, the past perfect. We are going to see the form. When is the past perfect used and why do we use it? Then we will see the use of the past perfect with before, after, and as soon as. And we will move to the past perfect progressive with the form. Then we have when do we use it, and we will end with some practice. So let's start with a small revision of the simple past. Simply, we can say that the simple past is used to speak about an action that happened in the past. It's an informative action. It just informs us about something that happened in the past. And that's it. Which means when we use the simple past, we don't need any other specific information. We just need to know what happened. For example, you say, I visited my parents last week. This is just the information that we have. I visited my parents. We inform you of an action that happened in the past, and we have a specific time, which is last week. But if you want to get more understanding of the simple past, check our video in the playlist. We have a video of the simple past. Now let's move to the past perfect, and we will start with the form. So the form of the past perfect is the following. We have had plus past participle. For example, she was very sad that her mother had died. And one important thing again, I will be reminding you of this all the time. This is the only form that we have for the past perfect, which means all the time when we speak about the conjugation of the past perfect, we must have had plus past perfect for all the pronouns, for all the persons. Okay, for example, I had plus past participle, she had plus past participle of any verb, we had plus past participle, they had, etc. It's all the time the same, no change. What changes is only the past participle of the verb. Okay, so now let's move to when the action of the past perfect happened. So the action of the past perfect happened before another action in the past. So remember, we must have two actions in the past. Two actions in the past. The first action happened in the past perfect, and after that action we have another action which is in the simple past. Okay, so both actions are in the past, but the one that happened first in time is used in the past perfect, and the one that happened after that, it is in the simple past. Okay, so we are going to see more examples, and we will try to understand when we move to the use. So why do we use the past perfect? Firstly, we use the past perfect to refer to an action that happened earlier than another action. So if you have two actions in the past, one happened before another, and you want to show that, you have to use the past perfect so as to show that. For example, I had cleaned the dishes before I watched the film. So I have two actions, cleaned and we have watched. Which one is first? The first one that happened is had cleaned the dishes before I watched the film. You can also say I had studied French before I went to university, which means when I am at the university, I had already started or studied French. It's the first action that happened is had studied. Okay, now another use of the past perfect is that it is used to refer to an action that caused another action. For example, you want to say that an action in the past was the cause of another action in the past. You can use the past perfect. For example, I went to a hospital. Why did I go to the hospital? Because I had hurt my hand with a broken glass. Okay, so the action that happened first is had hurt, and after that we have went. But why I went to hospital? It's because I had hurt my hand with a broken glass. So this is to speak about the cause of the second action, because the first action happened. That's why the second action happened. Another use of the past perfect here, it is used after verbs of thinking, saying, wondering, etc. Especially, it's like a kind of reported speech. But I'm going to see reported speech in another video. But now just to remind ourselves of another use of the past perfect. So to talk about things that had happened before the saying or the thinking. For example, he said. When did he say that? He said that in the past. Okay, what did he say? He said that he had traveled to Canada. For example, you met your friend yesterday, and your friend said to you, I traveled to Canada. This was yesterday. But now you want to tell me. So you will come and say, he said that he had traveled to Canada. Okay, he thought, this is another sentence, that he had finished the job. He thought that he had finished the job. When the thinking happened in the past. And before that, what happened? He finished the job. He thought that he had finished the job. Okay? So these are some uses of the past perfect. Now, remember, this is very important because most of the time we can use the past perfect with before, after, or as soon as. So the rule is, before the simple past happened, the past perfect had already happened. So if you use before, it must be followed by simple past. Okay? The past perfect had already happened. Before the simple past happened, which means if you have a verb, you want to put it in past perfect, you need two verbs, one in the simple past and the other one in the past perfect. So the one that is in the simple past is the following, is the first that comes after before. So before the simple past happened, the past perfect had already happened. We can also say the past perfect had happened before the simple past. You can change the sentence, which means you can start with the past perfect, but before should be just before happened, before the simple past. After the past perfect, the second sentence here, after the past perfect had happened, the simple past happened. This is just, let's say, some rules for before and after. And for as soon as the past perfect had happened, the simple past happened. As soon as the past perfect had happened, the simple past happened. So you can pause the video, write down these. This is an example of sentences in the past perfect that you can use when we have before, after, or as soon as. Now we move to the past perfect progressive. Before that, I want you just to remember two actions in the past, one before the other. The first one that happened in time is past perfect simple. The second one is simple past. So now we will move to the past perfect progressive. Some people call it continuous. So the form of the past perfect progressive or continuous is the following: had plus been plus verb plus ing. She had been cleaning the house for the whole morning before they showed up. Okay, she had been cleaning. So had been, and we have verb plus ing. This is the form of the past perfect progressive. Now we move to why do we use the past perfect progressive. The action of the past perfect progressive emphasizes the duration of an action that was in progress before another action or point of time in the past. Now, to speak about the past perfect progressive, it's the same as the past perfect simple, but there are some differences. What are these differences? First, we have an emphasis on time, on duration, which means the action that happened before the other action or is let's say long, it took some time, or we want to show that it took some time, even if it was just 5 minutes and I want to show that it was very long, I can use the past perfect progressive. Okay, the second difference is that for the past perfect simple we said we must have two actions, but now we said an action or a point of time, which means we can also use just a point of time. Let's look at this sentence or an example. I had been waiting for my friend for 2 hours before he finally showed up. Okay, I can change this. He finally showed up with 6 o'clock. I had been waiting for my friend for 2 hours before 6 o'clock. Yesterday, for example, before 6 o'clock yesterday, before last week, etc. It depends on time. So we can use he finally showed up, or we can use time and let's say an alternative time expression here. And look at this for 2 hours. I am emphasizing the duration of time. So most of the time we must have some kind of emphasis on time for the past perfect progressive. Okay. It can also be used to refer to an action that was in progress close in time to another action or a time in the past. She looked tired because she had been walking for 2 hours. She had been walking for 2 hours just before she looked tired. Before I looked at her and she looked tired, which means this action was happening for a long time and continued until the second action happened, or just before the second action happened. Okay, now we'll move to some practice. So now for the answers, we have they went home after they had finished. My brother had eaten all the pie before we got back. He asked why I had not visited him before. We were very tired. We had been traveling for about 16 hours. Traveling, we can write it with just one L for the American English. They were out of breath. They were out of breath. They had been running for a long time. He had been living in London 14 years when he had an accident. So as you see here, we have different types of verbs. The second part we have D, E, and F. All of them are past perfect progressive, or as you call it in the English textbook, past perfect continuous. Here we have for about 16 hours, for a long time, for 10 years. So we have some emphasis on time. It's not like the first verbs, we don't have any emphasis on duration. Okay, and I guess that's it for today. I wish you have understood the lesson. So please, if you like our video, please subscribe, like, and share with your friends to get more, to encourage us also to give you more. And if you have any questions, please ask them at the comment section below. And don't hesitate to ask any question concerning this lesson. And thank you.